The rain was relentless, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. Alaric, a 44-year-old IT specialist in Seattle, found myself staring out the window, the city lights blurring through the downpour. My life, once a picture of serene domesticity, had become a canvas of suspicion and dread. It had started subtly. Anya, my wife of 15 years, a vibrant and successful lawyer, had begun acting distant. Late nights at the office, hushed phone calls taken in the hallway, a guardedness in her eyes that I couldn't decipher. I tried to brush it off, attributing it to the pressures of her demanding career. But the gnawing feeling persisted, a cold dread that settled deep in my gut. Our life together had always felt like a well-composed symphony. We met at a coffee shop near the University of Washington, both studying for our respective degrees. Her infectious laughter and sharp wit had drawn me in instantly. We built a life together, brick by brick, sharing dreams, fears, and the quiet joys of everyday life. We bought a cozy house in the suburbs, adopted a golden retriever named Gus, and filled our weekends with hikes in the Cascades and evenings spent curled up with a good book. Anya was my anchor, my confidant, the woman I trusted with my life. But lately the music had changed. The harmony was off-key, replaced by dissonant chords of secrecy and evasion. She started paying meticulous attention to her appearance, buying new clothes, experimenting with different hairstyles. I initially welcomed it, thinking she was simply rediscovering her confidence. But then came the unexplained absences, the vague excuses, and the unsettling feeling that she was living a double life. One evening, I decided to surprise her at her office. I brought her favorite takeout from a local Thai restaurant, hoping to share a quiet dinner amidst her busy schedule. But when I arrived, her office was dark, the lights off, and the door locked. I called her, but she didn't answer. I left a message, feeling a knot of anxiety tighten in my chest. She eventually called back, her voice breathless, claiming she had been in a meeting off-site and hadn't heard her phone. But something in her tone felt rehearsed. The seed of doubt had been planted, and it began to sprout, its tendrils wrapping around my heart, choking the life out of our once unbreakable bond. I started noticing things I had previously overlooked: a lingering scent of cologne that wasn't mine, a lipstick stain on her coffee cup that didn't match her usual shade, a text message that flashed across her phone screen with a name I didn't recognize. I tried to confront her, but she dismissed my concerns, accusing me of being paranoid and insecure. "You're imagining things, Alaric," she would say, her eyes filled with a practiced innocence. "I am just busy with work. You need to trust me." Trust, once freely given, was now a fragile thing, splintered and fractured by suspicion. I started to feel like a stranger in my own home, walking on eggshells, afraid to ask the wrong question, afraid to shatter the illusion of our perfect life. The silence between us grew heavier, filled with unspoken accusations and simmering resentment. I found myself spending more time at work, burying myself in code, trying to escape the suffocating atmosphere of our home. One night I was working late, trying to debug a particularly nasty piece of software, when I received a message from an unknown number. It was a single photograph, a picture of Anya kissing a man I had never seen before. They were standing in front of a restaurant I recognized, a trendy Italian place downtown. The caption read, "Having a great time without you, Alaric." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. The blood drained from my face, and my hands began to tremble. I stared at the photograph, my mind struggling to comprehend what I was seeing. It couldn't be real. It had to be a mistake. But the image was seared into my memory, a brand of betrayal that would forever mark my soul. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, followed by a surge of anger so intense it felt like it would consume me from the inside out. I wanted to scream, to break things, to lash out at the woman who had so callously shattered my world. Instead, I did the only thing I could think of. I went home. I walked through the front door, my heart pounding in my chest, the photograph clutched tightly in my hand. Anya was sitting on the couch, reading a book, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the lamp. She looked up as I entered, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. "Alaric, what are you doing home so early?" she asked, her voice laced with a casual indifference that only fueled my rage. I didn't say a word. I simply held out the photograph, my hand shaking uncontrollably. She took it, her eyes widening in horror as she recognized the scene. Her face paled and she dropped the book onto the floor with a thud. "Alaric, I can explain," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "Explain," I roared, the sound echoing through the silent house. "Explain what? Explain how you could betray me like this. Explain how you could lie to my face for months. Explain how you could so easily discard our life," streamed down her face as she tried to defend herself, offering a pathetic string of excuses and justifications. She claimed it was a mistake, a moment of weakness, that she didn't mean for it to happen. She swore she still loved me, that she wanted to make things right. But her words were empty, hollow, devoid of any genuine remorse. The trust was gone, irrevocably broken. I couldn't look at her without seeing the image of her kissing another man, the memory of her betrayal forever etched into my mind. "I want you to leave," I said, my voice cold and detached. "I want you out of my house, out of my life. I never want to see you again." She begged me to reconsider, pleaded for a second chance, but I was unmoved. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by a stranger, a liar, a betrayer. I couldn't forgive her. I wouldn't forgive her. I packed her bags, ignoring her tearful protests, and dragged them to the front door. I watched as she walked away, disappearing into the darkness, leaving me alone in the ruins of our shattered life. The next few months were a blur of pain and grief. I barely ate, barely slept, haunted by the memories of our past. I lost weight, my face gaunt and hollow, my eyes filled with a deep, unyielding sadness. I considered seeking therapy, but I couldn't bring myself to talk about it, to relive the humiliation and heartbreak. I felt like a failure, a fool who had been blind to the truth, a victim of my own naivete. My friends tried to comfort me, offering words of encouragement and support, but their platitudes felt empty, meaningless. They couldn't understand the depth of my pain, the crushing weight of betrayal. I isolated myself, withdrawing from social gatherings, avoiding any reminders of my former life. I spent my days working, trying to distract myself from the constant ache in my heart. But at night, when the world grew quiet, the memories would come flooding back, overwhelming me with despair. One day, I received a call from a private investigator. A friend, Barnaby, had suggested I hire one, and after weeks of resisting, I finally relented. The investigator, a gruff but efficient woman named Isolde, informed me that she had uncovered some disturbing information about Anya and her affair partner. "His name is Kendrick," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. "He's a partner at her law firm, and he's married." The revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. Not only had Anya betrayed me, but she had also betrayed another woman, another family. The hypocrisy was staggering. Isolde went on to explain that Kendrick was known for his predatory behavior, that he had a history of affairs with younger associates at the firm. Anya, it seemed, was just the latest victim of his charm and manipulation. But Isolde also revealed something else, something that made my blood run cold. "Anya has been embezzling money from the firm," she said. "She's been funneling funds into a secret offshore account. We believe Kendrick is involved." Pieces of the puzzle finally fell into place. Anya's late nights at the office, her secretive phone calls, her sudden interest in expensive clothes and jewelry, it all made sense now. She wasn't just having an affair, she was committing a crime. And Kendrick was her accomplice. I felt a surge of anger, but this time it was different. It wasn't just the blind rage of a betrayed husband. It was the righteous anger of a man who had been wronged, a man who was determined to seek justice. I met with Isolde and we devised a plan. I provided her with all the information I had, including Anya's financial records and her communication history. Isolde, in turn, worked with the authorities to build a case against Anya and Kendrick. It took months of painstaking investigation, but eventually, they had enough evidence to move forward. The day Anya and Kendrick were arrested was one of the most satisfying days of my life. I watched as they were led away in handcuffs, their faces pale and stricken. The look of shock and betrayal on Anya's face was almost comical. She had thought she could get away with it, that she could manipulate and deceive her way to a life of wealth and luxury. But she had underestimated me. She had underestimated the power of truth and justice. The trial was a media circus. The details of Anya's affair and her embezzlement scheme were splashed across the headlines, exposing her hypocrisy and greed to the world. She tried to defend herself, claiming she was coerced by Kendrick, but the evidence against her was overwhelming. In the end, she was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to several years in prison. Kendrick received a similar sentence, his career and reputation in ruins. As I sat in the courtroom, listening to the judge pronounce the verdict, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. It wasn't happiness exactly, but it was something close to it. I had sought justice, and I had found it. Anya had betrayed me, had tried to destroy my life, but I had emerged from the ashes, stronger and more resilient than ever before. The aftermath of the trial was a time of healing and rebuilding. I sold our house, the place where our dreams had been shattered, and moved to a small apartment downtown. I reconnected with old friends, pursued new hobbies, and started to rediscover the joy in life. It wasn't easy. There were still moments of sadness and regret, times when I missed the woman I thought I knew. But I refused to let the past define me. I was determined to move forward, to create a new life for myself, one filled with honesty, integrity, and genuine connection. One evening, I was at a local art gallery, admiring a collection of abstract paintings, when I met a woman named Bront. She was a vibrant, intelligent artist with a warm smile and a kind heart. We struck up a conversation, and I found myself drawn to her easygoing nature and her infectious enthusiasm for life. We started dating, and slowly, cautiously, I began to open myself up to the possibility of love again. Bront was everything Anya wasn't: honest, compassionate, and genuinely interested in my happiness. She didn't judge me for my past, but instead embraced me for who I was, flaws and all. With Bront, I learned to trust again, to believe in the power of love and forgiveness. I realized that Anya's betrayal, while devastating, had ultimately made me a better person. It had taught me the importance of honesty, the fragility of trust, and the resilience of the human spirit. I had survived the storm, and I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more grateful for the simple joys of life. Years later, I received a letter from Anya. She was writing from prison, expressing remorse for her actions and begging for my forgiveness. I read the letter, feeling a mix of pity and indifference. I had moved on, had built a new life for myself, and Anya was now just a distant memory, a ghost from my past. I didn't write back. I didn't feel the need to offer her forgiveness. She had made her choices, and she had to live with the consequences. I closed the letter, tossed it into the fireplace, and watched as the flames consumed it, turning it to ash. The rain had stopped, and the sun was beginning to rise, casting a golden glow over the city. I looked out the window, feeling a sense of peace and contentment I hadn't felt in years. I had survived the betrayal, had found love again, and had learned to embrace the future with hope and optimism. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and I was finally, truly happy.